Hello everyone and welcome back to my hobby blog. Today I'm going to be reviewing House of the Dragon Season 2 Episode 8, the finale. I just finished it. It released about an hour and a half ago, about 9 p.m. Eastern Standard. And so I'll definitely be giving a hard rating for this episode and also my overall reactions to the season overall compared to Season 1. So right off the bat, we are visiting with Tywin Lannister, the Tyroshi captains who are going to be providing the ships to the green side to everyone there, like Alicent and Aegon and Aemond and all of them. At least I believe they're allied with them. I'm not too sure about it. Maybe I should have been paying attention more, but one of my main issues with this show right now, and this is what's going to factor into my rating quite a bit for the season, is that it feels like we've been really kind of slogging along in terms of the pacing of the story. I really was not satisfied when it came to the pacing of this season because this beginning part, especially the first half of this episode, really felt like it should have been done earlier this season because aside from the conclusion, or aside from the battle episode and I believe episode 4 or 5, we haven't really gone anything too exciting. And we haven't gone anything too, I guess, kind of concluding. We haven't had many conclusions to a lot of these arcs. They're just kind of continuing. And it's really a shame that we ended where we were because there was a lot I was looking forward to. This episode also has a few visions with Daemon still at Harrenhal. Ends up that he never leaves Harrenhal this entire season, which is definitely a choice. I did not really care for that. I remember the first half of the season, I was like, this is my jam. I love this, but episode by episode, I've sort of kind of fell away with that, or fell away from that. And maybe it's the influence of the internet, but I was really starting to understand and feel, along with everybody else, kind of this aversion to Daemon just kind of hanging around and doing his thing and getting not high, but hallucinating. And it's very kind of disappointing to think back with the season overall because this is what he's been doing the entire time. I mean, I enjoyed the scene that he has with one of his gods who is like, hey, we need to, go behind Rhaenyra and kind of do our own thing. Have you become king if that's possible? And Daemon's like, ooh, I didn't take you for a turncloak. So I was expecting something different than what we got in this episode because the very next scene that he's in, he has gathered all these soldiers, I guess, from various factions into kind of the main hallway or court room of the Castle Harrenhal. And I was just very kind of expecting some sort of betrayal and Rhaenyra would have to kind of run away, on her dragon or something. But he ends up swearing to her, and there's a pretty funny moment. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I felt like Daemon was trying to kiss Rhaenyra, and she kind of put her head down to kind of block it. And I thought that was kind of funny because we have a lot of kind of incestual visions going on with Daemon, where he's sleeping with his mother, sleeping with his sister, Rhaenyra, his niece, I guess. And all this is going on, and so I was expecting, and so I just thought that was funny that, he did that. But I was expecting kind of more of a sharp turn in that plot device because it feels like the entire season we've been kind of building up to this moment that we were expecting, which is fine. Maybe on rewatch, I don't know if I'll ever rewatch the show, but I feel like on rewatch, now that I know that this is where he's going to be the entire season, I may be more forgiving, but at the same time, I don't like it. I really wish there was more movement in the plot lines. We also get the one Targaryen girl, Corlys's daughter, who is in the Vale, kind of just wandering the countryside the entire episode. and I did not care for that either. I just, my heart goes out to her having to survive out in the wild, but I just did not care. I just don't care about that character. I'm just waiting for her to, tame the dragon, which she doesn't do in this episode. So I guess that's episode 1. We're gonna maybe do a time skip, and everyone will have dragons finally. I was hoping that would be what the season was about, which it satisfied it for the most part, but I didn't realize the entire season would be about trying to get these dragons, because the last episode, episode 7, at the end of it, we have Rhaenyra standing, really, epically on the coast, right off of Dragonstone, with 4 dragons, and they're all screeching, and it's awesome. But nothing comes of that. They kind of sit around Dragonstone and they're arguing with each other. Ulf, who is the I don't know if he's comic relief or not, or what he's trying to do, but I just did not care for his character as well. I thought he was just really just arrogant and just dumb. I don't know, he was just very one note to me. And I did not care. I mean, at the same time, the entire season he's just been drinking in a bar, which, again, we're having a lot of these kind of same locations. And so it was exciting when we went to the Tyroshi people in the beginning of the episode. I thought that was really fun. But I guess the big thing that I kind of turned on the episode a bit when this particular sequence happened, and that is the sequence where we are getting all of the White Walker and Song of Ice and Fire, which they've already been developing that. I'm not too, I guess, bored by that, but having the White Walker show up and then having a vision of Daenerys, sitting down with the dragons being freshly born, I did not care for that whatsoever. Any reminder of Game of Thrones just kind of takes me out of the show, because I'm like, man, this show is really great. The season 1 was a solid 9 out of 10, but this season before this episode was about 8.5, I would say. And anytime I think about Game of Thrones, I'm like, oh god, it's going back to like a 3 or 4 out of 10, and it's just so bad. Like I don't like Game of Thrones seasons 5 and on, but I just kind of don't care for that. I feel like that those moments were in there to kind of get a reaction out of like the audience, be like, oh, okay, Song of Ice and Fire, oh, I know all this stuff, but knowing where that is headed to and knowing, what happens in Game of Thrones, I could not care less about any of those sequences. I thought it was fine. I will say the goat creature, the goat-horned creature that was kind of like Pan from Pan's Labyrinth, when he was walking around, and I guess it was Alice kind of talking over this bull creature thing behind the weirwood. I love that. I love seeing kind of funny, weird shit like that. So that was definitely one of the highlights of the episode, which feels bad, but we also get a little bit of Alicent and Rhaenyra plot progression. Now that Rhaenyra has a dragon, or has many more dragon riders, Alicent just kind of shows up after her vacation that she was having, because she was clearing her mind. I was fine with all of that with Alicent. They explain it away in this episode where she is talking about how she's just done with everything, and she just wants to, breathe the free air and, walk wherever she wants. And Rhaenyra is just done with her shit. And so am I. I was completely on Rhaenyra's side when she was just talking her down and being like, you started all of this. You got the ball rolling. Like, there's nothing you can do at this point. Like, we are so late into the game, and you're trying to go back on, all this stuff that's been going on. Like, my son is dead. And, if you want to kill your son, we'll call it a fair day. But we know you're not, because you continued to defend him, all this stuff. And I enjoyed that scene quite a bit, but again, it also felt a little weird how Alicent just sort of shows up in Dragonstone and is easily, leaves, because nobody notices that Alicent is gone. She has a huge blow up with Aemond, and that I love everything with Aemond this episode, because although he's not in it much, he does sort of add spice to the scenes. I think he's a very interesting character. He has such a great on-screen presence, and they had a big blow up between him and Alicent, and also Aegon's wife, Helena, I believe her name is. And I thought that was a great scene, but aside from that, Alicent really didn't do anything this episode that I enjoyed. Because she finally defended, Helena and was like, don't fuck her up, you're gonna turn her into a monster, just like you and your brother, and, all this stuff. Like, I don't want that. And it was good. I mean, overall, everything with Alicent, I'm just kind of don't care for anymore. Rhaenyra also. I mean, Rhaenyra really didn't have much to do this season. I mean, season 1 just felt so great. Like, not only was it 10 episodes, so we have 2 extra hours, roughly, of runtime added on because of that, because this season only had 8 episodes. We had a downsizing of the episode count, but everything with Rhaenyra, it was great on paper, I feel like. I think my favorite episode with Rhaenyra was episode 7, because she was getting all the dragon riders and was, accomplishing her plans. But again, everyone's just kind of standing around, sitting around, just talking about their plans and not really doing anything about it. So I'm really hoping that whenever season 3 comes out, I know we have Night of the Seven Kingdoms next year. I believe that's the intention, which I'm very excited for that adaptation, a lot more than House of the Dragon. But whenever season 3 comes out, I'm really hoping it has a much better kind of pacing and doesn't just kind of slog around. But I guess my overall rating for this episode would be about 7 out of 10. I just kind of lost a lot of patience with this episode because we're still kind of milling around, just not doing anything. I feel like. If you disagree, let me know, because I would like to hear more thoughts or more opinions about the episode, because I'm just fresh off the episode. I'm just kind of rambling about, my reactions. But this episode is a solid 7 out of 10. I mean, I guess it's my least favorite episode, but I think that's just because it's the final episode of the season. I wanted to come away with a lot more like, oh shit, can't wait for the next season. But this episode just kind of made me go back into my attitude when season 1 came out, which was, I don't want to watch this. I don't really know too much about this period of history. I don't have much investment in that period of history. I think the Targaryens are great, but it's better as background info than an entire show dedicated to it, unless you're doing many dragons, which the show is trying to do, but they're limited by a CGI budget, is my takeaway from that, and why we haven't really had many dragon fights this season compared to the last season, which was just explosive. I loved season 1, but this season, my overall rating for it, I think I'm settling it at like an 8 out of 10. Still really good, above average show compared to the other shows that's been coming out recently, but the pacing, thinking back throughout the entire season and its pacing, it just really weighs it down. And a lot of the characters just kind of become hateable, which I know is kind of the point that George R. R. Martin is doing, although I think he is pretty open with that. He's more of a green person, supporting the Greens of Alicent and that whole team, but I think they're both pretty terrible, the teams. I'm still not cheering for one or the other. I'm really curious to see how season 3 is. I hope it's much better, but I really don't have many other thoughts. I'm trying to see the runtime from here, but yeah, that's really all I have to say about the season. I'm pretty disappointed by the end of the season, but I mean, it was great while watching it. The previous episodes, I mean, for the most part. I'm not going to do a rewatch and kind of re-review them, but yeah, so thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this season and this episode in particular. I'm really interested to see what other people think about this episode and season. So thank you all so much for watching, and please have a great rest of the day.